Shalom from Austin, Texas. It's Tuesday night, 7 p.m. is when our Bible study normally starts. We're running just a few minutes late because of circumstances beyond our control, but we are still going to have our Bible study tonight. So if you've come to join us for this Bible study, then you're going to find us having a good topic tonight, and we're going to take a look at the life of Sarah. And so the Torah Parashat starts off Hayyei-Sarah, and that's in 23 verse 1, Genesis chapter 23 verse 1. So I'm getting back up there as fast as I can go. I got the rapid fire finger on the control. And it's not going fast enough, so I'll just get over here and tell it to hurry it up. 23. So I was sitting here waiting for the broadcast to begin, reading ahead in the Torah Parashat, and I got lost from where I was supposed to be at. Okay, chapter 23, beginning in verse 1. Let's have a word of prayer before we begin. Why don't you pray with me out loud? Father, I want to study tonight.
Father, I want to study tonight.
I'm asking you to help me study.
I'm asking you to help me study.
And give me food from heaven. I
I
also want living water from heaven.
also want living water from heaven.
I'm thirsty, Lord.
I'm thirsty, Lord.
Just pour it in me.
Just pour it in me.
And give me enough to give to others as well.
And give me enough to give to others as well.
I pray this in the name of Messiah Yeshua.
I pray this in the name of Messiah Yeshua.
Amen.
Amen.
Baruch Hashem. Okay, chapter 25 of Genesis, and we're beginning in verse 1. Vayahu, and this is well, it's the verb to be, and it's referring to the Hayyei-Sarah, the life of Sarah, and she was 100 shana, so she's 100 years. Ve'esarim shana, and that means in 20 years, so it's 120 so far. Ve'shiva shanim, and that means she's 127 total years, were the life of Sarah, Hayyei-Sarah. So we can see that, first of all, this is kind of an unusual way to tell somebody's age, but it's not necessarily unusual in the Torah. It is a little unusual to speak of a woman in this way. Typically, when they're talking about how old a man is when he's alive in the earth. So when they talk about that, they'll talk in these terms usually. But for women, this is just a little unusual. So, V'tama, and she died, and Sarah is the one that died. B'kiryat Arba. Kiryat Arba is Mesopotamia, and it's around the area where modern Iraq would be.
Oh, wow.
So it says the same area is Hebron in the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to mourn. Sipod means to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. In verse 3, Vayakam, and that's that word there, Vayakam means, and he established or set up. And Abraham's the one who's doing the setting up. Before the face of his dead, he stood up before her, and he spoke unto the sons of the people of Het to say. Now, Het is the Mesopotamian who lived in that area of Canaan where Abraham had settled in this region. He was sojourning with them.
Right.
So he's there, and he says to the sons of Het, Ger v'toshav, a ger and a sojourner I am, imakem, with you, tanu, give to me, tanu li, give to me, achuzat, a possession, kever, for a burial place, a place to cover his dead, imachem, with you, va'eh kevara, so that I may bury miti, my dead, mil panai, so it'll be out from my face, out from before my face, so out of my sight, in other words. And then he says, Vayanu, and this is the children of Het who are responding, Vayanu, B'nai Het. So the children of Het responded, Abraham, saying to him, and in verse 6, Shemanu, hear us. You've got the root in there that's real clear, isn't it? Shema, listen to me. Hear us, Adonai. Nisi, you are a prince of God, Elohim. Are you? Betokenu, among us. B'mivchar, in your choice of our sepulchres. Ki varenu, our burying places, you should bury your dead. None of us would withhold it from you, his sepulchre, and none shall withhold his sepulchre from you, that you may bury your dead. Vayakam, and again it says, and he set up, Abraham set up, or stood up, Vayishtahu, and he bowed himself, this is to prostrate himself to the ground. That's what Vayishtacha means. Let me just open that up for you so you can see that. It means to prostrate in homage or to a royalty or a god. So it's a primitive root. It means to depress oneself or throw oneself on the ground before this person. And so he essentially worshipped toward the people of the land, of the children of Het. That's kind of unusual because most of the children of Israel from that day on until this day don't bow before men. They just don't. It's just not their tradition. Vayadaber, and he commanded or communed with them or spoke with them. Itam means with them. Lemor, saying, Im yesh et nafshekem, if it will be your mind, likvor, that I should bury et meti, my dead, mil panai, out of my sight, shemau ni, hear me, the pigu, and entreat for me, Ephron, well, I went up too far. There it is. And we're still in verse 8. Entreat for me to Ephron ben Zohar. And so, Vayitan, that he may give li, to me, Marat, the cave of Ha-Machpelet. And Machpelet is the field that Ephron owned, and in that field was the cave which he wanted to use for his burying place. Asher lo, Asher Maketz, which is in the end of Sadehu, his field. Kesef, for money. Now, kesef in the Bible is always speaking of silver, which is used for monetary trading, just like the dollar would be for us, and for the pound for England, and the yen for Japan. All of these are known, established figures worth so much in other people's money, and they can make exchanges. So here Abraham is offering kesef, malay, for its fullness, and that means what it's worth, yitnaneh, and he shall give it to me, bitokechun, in your midst, le'achuzat, as a possession, kaver, to bury, as a burying place. So he's trying to make a deal with them for his place of burying. Now, up until this point in time, Abraham was only sojourning. He was not really a resident of that country. But if he purchases this property, it changes his status from a sojourner to a resident. So he's working a deal that will cause him to be able to have some form of residency there in the land of Canaan among the sons of Het. And it gives him rights spiritually as a member of that community. And he says, so that's why he said, well, I want you to seek out Ephron for me and talk him into selling me this field for so much money. He didn't say how much, but he wanted to know how much he wanted for it. And so he says, in the presence of, he says, nay, my Lord. This is where he begins. This is continuing, verse 11. Nay, my Lord, lo Adoni, Shamani, hear me, Hashadeh, the field, Hasadeh, Natati, I give to you, Lekha, to you. And Hama'ara, the cave, Asher Bo, which is in him, unto you I give it. In the presence, or in the eyes of the presence of the sons of my people, Ami, means my people, Natateya, I give it, Lecha, to you, Kover Meteka, cover your dead. And in verse 12, he continues, Vayishtachu, and he bowed himself down, Abraham did, Lifnei Ha'am, before the people of the land. In verse 13, Vaydober el Ephron ba'aznei Am, in the hearing of the people of the land, and he's saying, but if you will give it, I pray, Shemani, hear me, Natati, I will give you kesef, money, legal funds. I want to buy that property. I don't want you to just give it to me. I want to purchase it. And he's going to purchase Hasadeh, the field, Kach mi meni, take it from me, and I will bury my dead there. So he's offering him this kesef, money, for the field. And Ephron answered. Now, Ephron didn't want to make him a deal. He didn't want to sell him them, because I think he understood the implications. That if he has ownership of a piece of field that he's bought, then he has spiritual ownership in the land, and it makes him a resident. And I don't think he really wanted Abraham to be a resident. That's just the way, if you go up today and you see a field and it's a nice field, and you talk to the owner and say, I'd like to buy that field, and I'd like to put me a tent on it, or or a house on it or whatever and live there on my property. Well, the guy's going to say, well, I don't think I want you for a neighbor. You know, that field is important to me, and I don't want to just you know, I want to choose who lives next door to me. And that's what they would say today, you know. And so then you would have to come back and make an offer. Now, if you get the offer sweet enough, he's going to take it, more than likely. And so that's what Abraham did. He made a sweet deal to him. Verse 15, we'll continue. My Lord, Shemani, listen to me, Haaretz, Arba Meot Shekel. So my land is worth 400 shekels of silver. Beini, between me, Ubeincha, and between you, what is that? Va'et meitcha, therefore you are dead, kavor, bury your dead. And Abraham listened unto Ephron and weighed out the shekels to Ephron, ha-kesef, which the money which the bear he had named in the audience of the ears of the children of Het, 400 shekels of current silver with the merchants. So this was common for merchants to offer shekels in exchange for goods. And then coming down to verse 17, and I'm going to be switching over to English here pretty quickly because I'd like to make some good speed through this parsha so we can hopefully get to the end of it, at least in the reading, before we finish the evening up. So vayakam here is the same word that is in its meaning literally means to set up or establish, like you would put up a marker. And that's really the intention. So he made sure, he established, he set up a deal with the Sadeh, the field of Ephron, which Machpelah, which was the field which was before Mamre, the field and the cave, which was therein, and all the trees that were in the field that were in all of the borders around about it. So he bought the entire field and the trees and the cave that was in the field. That was the deal. And to Abraham, he bought it for a possession. Mikana, that means he paid for it. La'anei, in the presence of the sons of Het, and in all, ba'e sha'ar yeru. So that means he, in all the eyes of all of those who went entered passing the gate of his city. So the gate of the city is the courtyard. Now, I guess you guys have heard me tell this before, but it would still bear repeating. I've got the desktop here with a marker. Each city would have a wall around it. And in the courtyard, the entrance to the city would have, like here would be a gate, and it would have a courtyard here. And the courtyard would have these low-lying benches. They're about chair height on the seat, and it's around the entire wall of the inner courtyard. at the entrance of the city, so that they could regulate who came and went in and out of the city. And that way the guards of the city would be able to regulate who comes in and goes out, and they wouldn't be having a surprise attack from enemies. And these are really bad times that they lived in. And everybody that went in and out of the city went through this courtyard. Well, that's why where we get the modern word court today for our court government system. And so the court is where all the matters were heard, because all the men of the city would have to go through that place in order to go in and out. And so it was a good place to gather witnesses, maybe a jury or whatever. There would be a judge there to kind of rule over the proceedings. And it'd be very similar to what we have in today's modern American courts. And it would be there in that courtyard because everybody passes through that gate. And so it's a way to restrict who comes and goes, who gets to come into the court, and so on. So come on. Get back to the Bible here. And it won't come up for me. So I will close that program down so it will come up for me, and then we'll go back into the Bible. So this transaction would have been done at the courthouse for the city that was closest by. And today, if you go buy a piece of land, you would go to the county courthouse and you would get that proceeding registered with the local courthouse, and there would be a description of how that transaction went, whether you took the land for possession as a court action based upon some fault that had occurred between you and the person who actually owned the land, or whether you made an agreement to purchase it for some purpose, where it was deeded over to you. Maybe you were one of the sons and he left that property to you in a will, and that would be placed into the action there at the court, kept on file. That's why they have so many scribes in these days. I always wonder why they need so many scribes. Well, it's because they had to have people who were good at writing these documents out, because it was all written by hand, and so everything had to be duly recorded and filed in the courthouses, if you will. And
It was done in scrolls, right?
right, on lambskin, or on in some provinces they would use clay tablets that would be baked in the sun so that the record would keep. In fact, we have a lot of those old clay tablets that have been dug up in archaeology.
And they have all the writings and stuff on it.
And that's how we know how they did business, is because everything was written in clay, and it was baked like in an oven, so it would stay forever, you know. I'm going to go ahead and move into the English Bible so we can get to moving here, but maybe we'll come back and take a look at the Hebrew when we get to interesting places. So Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave of the field of Machpelah by Mamre, also known as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field and its cave had been purchased by Abraham from the sons of Het as a burial site, which would belong to him. Chapter 24. By now, Abraham was old, advanced in years, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in everything. Abraham said to the servant who had served him the longest, who was in charge of all he owned, "Put your hand under my rayach." In the Hebrew, the term is rayach. And this is a sign of trust. Abraham would not let just anybody put his hand there. That was his private area. He's not going to trust anybody to put their hand there. So this is a person that's counted like a member of the family. And that he's going to make him swear on his procreative components that he will do what he's about to be asked to do. And so it's a very serious matter, in other words. Here they word it a little bit more sensitively. And he says, put your hand under my thigh, because I want you to swear by Yahweh, God of heaven and God of earth, that you will not choose a wife for my son from among the women of the Canaan, among whom I live, but you will go to my homeland, to my kinsman, and choose a wife for my son Yitzhak. And the servant replied, suppose the woman isn't willing to follow me to this land. Must I then bring your son back to the land from which you came? Avram said to him, see to it that you don't bring my son back there. Yahweh, the God of heaven, who took me away from my father's house and away from the land I was born in, who spoke to me and swore to me, I will give this land to your descendants. He will send his angel ahead of you, and you are to bring a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is unwilling to follow you, then you are released from your obligation under my oath. Just don't bring my son back there. The servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham, his master, and swore to him concerning the matter. Then the servant took 10 of his master's camels and all kinds of gifts from his master, got up and went to Aram Naharim, and that's again Mesopotamia, the modern Iraq, I guess you could say, to Nahor's city. And remember what I said Nahor means? Snorer. Nahor. Probably a loud one. Toward evening, when the women go out to draw water, he had the camels kneel down outside the city by the well. It's interesting that this word kneel down is barak. It's like the word to bless. You know, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu. Well, Baruch is the same essential root as barak. It means to kneel down. Oh, wow. And so Abraham, he had the camels kneel down outside the city by the well, and he said, Adonai, God of my master Abraham, please let me succeed today, and show your grace to my master Abraham. Here I am standing by the spring, as the daughters of townsfolk come out to draw water. I will say to one of the girls, please lower your jug so that I can drink. And if she answers, yes, drink, and I will water your camels as well, then let her be the one you intended for your servant Isaac. This is how I will know that you have shown grace to my master. Before he had finished speaking, Rivkah, the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her jug on her shoulder. The girl was very beautiful, a virgin, never having had sexual relations with any man. She went down to the spring and came up, and filled her jug and came up, and the servant ran to meet her and said, please give me a sip of water from your jug to drink. Drink, my lord, she replied, and immediately lowered her jug into her arm and let him drink. And when she was through letting him drink, she said, I will also draw water for your camels until they have drunk their fill. She quickly emptied her jug into the trough and then ran again to the well to draw water and kept on drawing water for the camels. The man gazed at her in silence, waiting to find out whether Yahweh had made his trip successful or not. Then, it says, the camels were done drinking. The man took the gold nose ring weighing 1/5 of an ounce and 2 gold bracelets weighing 4 ounces. 4 ounces of gold. That's a lot of money. And asked, whose daughter are you? Tell me, please. Is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? She answered, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, bore to Nahor. adding, "We have plenty of straw and fodder and room for staying overnight." The man bowed his head and prostrated himself before Adonai. And then he said, "Blessed be Yahweh, God of my father, my master Abraham, who has not abandoned his faithful love for my master, because Yahweh has guided me into the house of my master's kinsman." And the girl ran off and told her mother's household what had happened. Rivkah had a brother named Lavan. When he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrists beside, when he looked, 4 ounces plus an ounce for the nose ring, that's 5 ounces of gold. What's gold going for these days? But something like $800 an ounce.
That had to have been heavy.
Isn't it? Something like that? Somewhere around $800 an ounce. So you got 5 ounces. That's something like, what, $4,000? 5 times 800. 40,000. That's $40,000 worth of gold right there. Can you believe that? $40,000 of gold. Whew.
Were all those kings from, where was it, Egypt that had Abraham take everything on those 2 occasions?
Now, I may be wrong. My brain may not be adding these numbers and multiplying them right, but it seems like it's going to be something like either $4,000 or $40,000 that he gave her.
Yeah.
So when he saw the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrists besides, and when he heard his sister Rivkah's report what the man had said to her, he ran out to the spring and found the man standing there by the camels. "Come on in," he said. "You whom Yahweh has blessed. Why are you standing outside when I've made room in the house and prepared a place for the camels?" So the man went inside while the camels were being unloaded and provided straw and fodder. Water was brought for him to wash his feet and the feet of the men with him. But when the meal was set before him, he said, "I won't eat until I say what I have to say." Lavan said, "Speak." He said, "I am Abraham's servant. Yahweh has greatly blessed my master so that he has grown wealthy. He has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and male and female slaves and camels and donkeys. Sarah, my master's wife, bore my master's son when she was old, and he has given him everything he has. My master made me swear, saying, 'You are not to choose a wife for my son from among the women of the Canaanite, among whom I am living, but rather you are to go to my father's house, to my kinsman, to choose a wife for my son.' I said to my master, 'Suppose a woman isn't willing to follow me.' Avram said to me, 'Yahweh, in whose presence I live, will send his angel with you to make your trip successful, and you are to pick a wife for my son from the kinsman in my father's house. This will release you from your obligation under my oath. But if when you have come to my kinsman they refuse to give her to you, this too will release you from my oath.'" So today I came to the spring and I said, "Yahweh, God of my master Abraham, if you are causing my trip to be a success on its purpose, then hineni, here I am, standing by the spring. I will say to one of the girls, 'Come out and draw water. Let me have a sip of water from your jug.' And if she answers, 'Yes, drink, and I will water your camels as well,' then let her be the woman you intend for my master's son." The evening before I had finished speaking it to my heart, there came Rivkah going out with her jug on her shoulder. She went down to the spring and drew water. When I said to her, "Please let me have a drink," she immediately lowered the jug from her shoulder and said, "Drink, I will water your camels as well." So I drank, and she had the camels drink too. I asked her, "Whose daughter are you?" And she said, "The daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, whom Milcah bore to him." Then I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets with her wrists and bowed my hand, prostrated myself. I'm laughing because I believe this is an amazing and awesome story. I mean, to me, this is just, it's the way God seems to operate, okay? So I bowed my head, prostrated myself before Yahweh, and blessed Yahweh, God of my master Abraham, for having led me right away to obtain my master's brother's granddaughter for his son. So now, if you people intend to show grace and truth to my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, so that I can return elsewhere. Lavan and Bethuel replied, since this comes from Yahweh, we can't say anything to you either good or bad. Rivkah is here in front of you. Take her and go. Let her be your master's son's wife, as Adonai has said. And when Abraham's servant heard what they said, he prostrated himself on the ground to Yahweh. And the servant brought out silver and gold jewelry together with clothing and gave them to Rivkah, and he also gave valuable gifts to her brother and mother, and he and his men came and ate and drank and spent the night. In the morning they got up, and he said, send me off to my master. Her brother and mother said, let the girl stay with us a few days, at least 10. After that, she will go. And he answered them, please don't delay me, since Yahweh has made my trip successful, but let me go back to my master. They said, we will call the girl to see what she says. They called Rivkah and asked her, will you go with this man? And she replied, I will. So they sent their sister Rivkah away with our nurse, Abraham's servant, and his men. And they blessed Rivkah with these words, our sister, may you be the mother of millions. May your descendants possess the cities of those who hate them. Then Rivkah and her maids mounted the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Rivkah and went on his way. In the meantime, Yitzhak, one evening after coming along the road from Beer Lachai Roi, he was, Beer means well, Lachai means to life, Roi means of happiness, yeah. Yeah. The shepherd, yeah. He was living in the Negev, and he walked out in the field, and as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Rivkah too looked up, and when she saw, now look, all these people are looking up. They're looking up into the Rakia. Rivkah looked up, and as he looked, when she saw Yitzhak, she quickly dismounted the camel. She said to the servant, who is this man walking in the field to meet us? When the servant replied, it is my master, she took her veil and covered herself. A promised woman. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The servant told Yitzhak everything he had done, and Yitzhak brought her to his mother, Sarah's tent, and took Rivkah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Thus was Yitzhak comforted for the loss of his mother. That's amazing. Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. She bore him Zimran, Yokshan, Medan and Midian, Yishbak and Shuach. Yokshan fathered Shiva and Dedan. And the sons of Dedan were Ashrim, Letushim, and Lumim. The sons of Midian were Ipha, Epher, Hanuk, Avida, and Eldah, and all these were descendants of Keturah. Abraham gave everything he owned to Yitzhak, but the sons of the concubines he made grants, and while he was still living, sent them off to the east to the land of Kedam, away from Yitzhak, his son.
That was smart.
Yeah. keeping the contention down and all that.
Any wars and yep.
This is how long Abraham lived, 175 years. And then Abraham breathed his last, dying at a ripe old age. An old man full of years, he was gathered to his people. Isaac and Ishmael, his sons, buried him in the cave of Machpelah in the field of Ephron, the son of Zochar, the Hittite, by Mamre, the field which Abraham purchased from his sons of Het. Abraham was buried there with Sarah, his wife. Amazing. Abraham gave everything to Isaac, but the sons, concubines, he made grandson. We read that. Okay. I'm sorry?
We stopped at where he was buried with Sarah, his wife.
Right. What verse was that?
Well, that was the end of 10, and then we're starting at 11.
Verse 11?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but sometimes this thing doesn't scroll right. I'm still not finding. Oh, there it is at the end. It's verse 11. After Abraham died, God blessed Isaac his son, and Isaac lived near Beer Lachairoi. Here is the genealogy of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar, the Egyptian woman, bore. And this is dealing with Ishmael. These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, listed in the order of their birth. The firstborn of Ishmael was Nevaiot, followed by Kedar, Adbeel, Mivsham, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Taima, Teur, Naphesh, and Kedma. These are the... Huh?
Yeah, a lot of boys.
Yeah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names according to their settlements and their camps of the 12 tribal rulers. This is how long Ishmael lived, 137 years, and he breathed his last and died and was gathered to his people. Ishmael's sons lived between Havilah and Sur, near Egypt. As you go towards Ashur, he settled near all his kinsmen. Ishmael's sons lived between Havilah and Sur, near Egypt. Okay, so that's the end of the Parsha, and I'm going to cut this one a little bit short. It's a lot easier to teach these in a little more detail and get a lot more interesting facts when I've got a room full of people pulling it out of me. So we're a little short on supportive help here this time, but I believe we've done a pretty good job of covering this Torah Parsha. If you'd like to extend your readings, you can go to our website, to the Torah reading calendar, and it'll give you some other readings like the Haftarah, Hayyei-Sarah, and then the Brit Hadashah suggested readings for Parsha Hayyei-Sarah. And you can have some expanded reading that way. Well, that's going to be it for tonight. I say may God bless you and keep you, and may the reading of His Word be a blessing to your ears and to your understanding. And we will be back again next Tuesday at 7. And these are turning lately into about a 1-hour segment, but sometimes they get a little long and we end up running a little over, but that's all right. So until next week, I'd like to just wish you all a wonderful time and prosperous time studying God's Word. And I hope you can join us again next week. And don't forget, we have our Sabbath meetings on Saturday morning. I have a class called Bible Issues at 10 a.m. and at 11 a.m. we have a morning service, get through about 1 o'clock. please join us. And if you'd like to, please come on out to the ranch here and worship with us. We'd love to have you here. And so until later on next week or whenever, we've got some other things coming up. I'm sure that my hostess will tell you more about that as soon as she wraps up the broadcast. God bless you and shalom.
Names.
Thank you for joining us for another delightful evening of Torah study. We want to welcome you back for this coming Shabbat service, beginning at 10 a.m. in the morning of Saturday morning with the Bible's Issues class, also known as the Rabbi's class, followed by our 11 a.m. main service with worship, liturgy, and more teaching. Please look forward to come, and we look forward to seeing you because we have further announcements regarding like Hanukkah and other festive holy days that are commanded in the Bible. So please join us. We'd love to have you. And until next time, shalom, shalom.